On Thanksgiving dinner, my mother-in-law tries to embarrass me in front of everyone and says I should be more like my sister-in-law. Oh, the same sister-in-law who's hiding a secret from you? Do I expose her now? One of my favorite stories is Cinderella. As a child, I identified with her a lot, mostly because of the dysfunctional family deal, which is something I can easily identify with several fictional characters. I only saw the whole stepmother-stepsister thing as too diabolical for any child to handle, and even came to have almost irrational fear of being a stepmother after college. There's plenty of single men with a boy ahead of me, so you never know. But I managed to get someone who would not pose a major evilness in this scenario. Lloyd, my husband. By then a bright, charming boy who was the purest definition of a golden retriever. Everyone liked him and he was everyone's friend. He was loyal, kind, a good listener, something the world lacked, am I right? I know many complain about people like that, but not me. That's just one of the qualities that most appealed to me about him, apart from the fact that, like me, he wanted to form a family of 4, and so it was almost meticulously planned with 2 boys in between, both of whom I adore with my life, my soul, and all my heart. Since I've been a worrywart all my life, it was normal for me to spoil my children too much. I must make a statement. I am indeed a mama bird. The first time I saw my oldest son fall was when he was just 2 years of age, and my husband ran to the rescue, only to immediately make him laugh, and of course I was in the next room crying disconsolately, as if I was the one who took a fall. Fun fact. When they're very young, children should have the opposite reaction from you so they don't cry. That is, when something, quote, bad happens to them, you should celebrate or clap your hands like a victory so as not to generate a bad feeling in the baby. However, I was the opposite, because I had to go and cry somewhere else. In the same way, this was the case throughout my whole childhood, which was full of the same rewards. There were times when it almost bordered on absurd. Even if they misbehaved, I would go buy them ice cream or something. Lloyd brought this to my attention, and that's when we had a long conversation about stopping this behavior before it ended up turning my kids into spoiled brats. And that's how a new era began. So, let me go ahead and explain to you this new era, where I would be intervening so much into rewards or punishments. That would be taken by Lloyd. But from time to time, and only when they behaved well, I would give them a little treat or reward to look forward to. This was no longer a bad thing. In fact, as I always tried to say, within the range of the maternally correct, while I did give them each a very nice cell phone, I gave it to them when they turned 13, so that they would be fully aware of how to use it. However, there's been a couple of people who have not handled my own situation so well. My mother-in-law and my sister-in-law. Whenever they get a chance to criticize my parenting time, they don't waste it. Lloyd has even told them that the background, as to why I'm such a mama bird, and it's all due to somewhat conflicted upbringing. I was raised by my grandparents, as my parents were always busy with other things, so I ended up being the kind of girl who wanted children to give them everything she ever wanted. But don't worry, I've dealt with that in therapy, and as I've told you before, I do everything based on what's healthy. Still, I try to give my boys the best life, but that seems to be too much for my husband's family. Lloyd tells me that likewise, he was a boy with many shortcomings, only of a different kind. On his side of the family, he was treated very independently. The kind of family where the boys had to be put into farm work at a very young age, and the girls straight into the kitchen. It's not wrong to teach your children to be productive and to know how to manage everything from a young age. But one thing is to teach them to bake bread, and another is to not even give them a few words of congratulations when they come to you with a report card full of good grades. Lloyd tells me that, that happened to him about 3 times. That he would happily come to class, give the good news to his mother for her to just tell him, that's your duty as a student. So he stopped doing it. You see what I mean? The effort has to be rewarded, and that's where I came into the equation. Since we've had our children, Lloyd's family's only a little rough with them. You would think that the grandparents would be more than happy to have their grandchildren around, but not Lloyd's mom. From the first moment she mentioned when we were going to put them in a military school, And if they had seen my face when she said that, they would have laughed as hard as she did. But I was not amused, because sometimes later she kept on the same comment, and I knew that between comments there was some truth hiding behind it. She criticizes my behavior with my children, and there was some, my parenting methods that I would apply to them. I feel that was one of the reasons Lloyd decided to give me some sort of ultimatum regarding toys and gifting. Of course, it's because his family half-poisoned him with those comments, but his mother is always criticizing just about everything I do regarding my boys. I'd say the funniest part of the matter is my sister-in-law's parenting, which is quite careless. She's managed to turn her children into little juvenile delinquents. Even her oldest son, who, by the way, is now 17 years of age, is a bad apple in every sense of the word. He's the kind of boy who needs to be corrected by military school, and it's something that everyone refuses to accept within the family. My mother-in-law is like a super thrilled, right? With the kids, since they have more freedom, she just automatically thinks that they're better than mine. But no, it doesn't matter the fact that they misbehave, fail several subjects in school, or they've even received constant complaints in their schools for problems in the classroom, such as bullying and stealing. No, I guess none of that matters. Only the fact that I spoil my children too much. The word for that is hypocrisy. And that's why I feel like it falls into the personal matter of me being the one raising the kids. I remember one time, they stayed at my house and my kids learned only bad habits from their cousins. Like not flushing the toilet, throwing rocks at a stray cat, even though they know full well that I love cats. And not only that, it's a bad thing to do. That's why I subtly did not let them stay at my house anymore. And even less let my kids stay at their cousin's house, since there's the matter turning about 180 degrees. And it was more than danger there than it was enjoyment. Still, those boys enjoy almost any terrible impunities. My mother-in-law let them off the hook after they broke her garden decorations, but mine are still on her radar from the day they spent more time than usual in front of the TV, even though they were watching educational programs. Too much TV's bad for your health, apparently. I don't know. She just wants to scold them for the sake of it, and I feel those boys are that way precisely because they didn't have my method of parenting. While my children may be soft or innocent, their cousin can easily be labeled as deceitful, manipulative, liars, and even scandalous. The way they're raised, so permissive and consequence-free, all it does is teach those boys that they're above everyone else, and that in my experience can just also teach them, that they're above the law even. I usually deal with these kids of problems by writing, but after therapy I knew that I could purge my feelings much more by doing it in a more public way. If you know what I mean, then you know. And so I decided to vent my frustrations here to let people know how these situations have come to affect me and the injustice I live in my own family. To top it all off, my sister-in-law, even though she tends to be a bit abrupt in her comments towards me, treats me as if I were her best friend. She's somewhat annoying at times, while my mother-in-law doesn't like my parenting methods. My sister-in-law just ignores her and lets everyone do whatever they want, which is also another contrast to the parenting she's received along with Lloyd. Update number 1. Guys, my sister-in-law just called me in absolute tears, telling me another of her many problems with her children. Her oldest son is out of control in class and tends to spend more hours in the principal's office than in the lunchroom. As a bonus, he once even had to eat in the principal's office. She's tried talking to him, taking him to the guidance counselor, and even Lloyd and I have talks with him, but nothing seems to work. He even repeated a year in elementary school and has had a hard time with his studies, so we're afraid he's one of the percentages that won't even make it through high school. Anyways, the boy just says that sometimes he does things without thinking twice, and that's brought him good things in his life before, according to him. He already has a girlfriend, earned some money doing technical drawing for some of his classmates, and, it's literally the only subject he's actually good at, and claims to have a very good and loyal friendship group. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he was auditioning for a gangster movie. At the rate he's going, The boy will be taken to military school where he believes he'll be much more disciplined, but deprived of many freedoms. Still, how messed up do you have to be to consider military school your best choice? One thing that makes me very angry, however, is that while my mother-in-law mentions my children in military school, she doesn't take kindly to my sister-in-law's children being there. She just sees it as a place where they put the weak, strong boys, not thinking that the rude and deceitful ones are also corrected in those ways. Furthermore, Lloyd is also on my side, saying that as soon as he gets the chance, he would opt to put his nephew in military school and he'd had problems with those boys, and considers them good for nothing. But since some of Lloyd's stuff is so secretive, I highly doubt the scenario will come where he actively sets out to do something to make them suffer the consequences. The best he can do is ignore the problem, which is very easy to say but hard to do. For now, I'll just say that I'd prefer my innocent kiddos 1,000 times over those miniature criminals. Update number 2. Hey guys, back for another one. I would like to feel somewhat satisfied with this situation, but family is family and I can't turn a blind eye. My sister-in-law's oldest son has gotten himself into big trouble, and is not the kind that young people usually get into. Way worse, we don't yet know the origins of the scenario, but he ended up getting caught while selling illicit substances to other boys from nearby schools. For some time now, the police have been concerned about a recent crime wave involving drug sales, suspecting the young population as it was believed that they were just affected by this situation. The boy himself had been getting extra money for alleged jobs that he's been doing. Okay, I'll explain it now. He and other friends have created the alibi that they were going to start working a house cleaner. You know, the ones who mow lawns, clean bathrooms, decorate, etc. But it was just a cover so we would not find out what they were up to. The truth is that they've been tempted by some guys to have some easy money by taking their merchandise to the school, but with only one particular rule: not to sell it in their own school and not to say anything to anyone. Everything had to be kept in a small group of only 3 friends, where my nephew was the main leader and he's going through the most delicate situation. And to make matters better, my mother-in-law had not a good run. When started as a pain in her legs is now turning into bodily discomfort that forces her to be in bed for much of the day. She gets up late and goes to bed early as she says she feels heavy from all her body weight, which I wouldn't say is that much either. Still, she's on some pretty strong medication, and I can't get too upset. The doctor sent her on bed rest and we're taking turns taking care of her. Fortunately, that's given me some pleasure and I don't have to put up with my sister-in-law so much anymore, because when it's my turn to take care of my mother-in-law, she doesn't. And vice versa, I've been able to enjoy a relative calm during these days, because my sister-in-law is very busy with her son's situation, and my mother-in-law is simply so weak that she doesn't even have the strength to argue. She only argues about whatever is on TV. I have 5 streaming services, and she's only interested in watching whatever is on the cooking channel. She even gets upset if the chef doesn't cook it the way she wants, and sometimes when that happens, she gets this terrible coughing fit. I can't imagine how she would be when she finds out about her precious grandson is being held for illegal substances. I've spoken to Lloyd, and he tells me that I should not talk to her about it and that therefore none of the grandchildren should visit her, as that would make her ask about the only one who doesn't visit her. We're also already working on the issue of my nephew since he needs almost a miracle to get away with it. There's going to be a trial, which unfortunately he has everything to lose. We can appeal on the fact that he's a minor, but I don't know how well this alibi will work out, since he did it with intent and malice after forethought. I managed to talk to him only once a few days ago, and he came across as somewhat worried. He was trying to give a false sense of confidence, but I know deep down he's super scared, and no one would understand him in that situation. His other friends do have more wear and tear than he does. One of them's only 16, and my nephew said, in dark humor, that kid wouldn't last a week in jail. Not like him, because he would make it a month. It should be noted that none of us laughed at this comment, and we talked to a family friend to represent the case. And he managed to give us an incredible discount because the other lawyers were already charging us around 4 figures. and together with my mother-in-law's medical expenses, it was too difficult to cover. His younger siblings and my children ask about him a lot, but we've tried to lie to them so they don't get worried, and in of itself, we told them about Grandma's medical situation, and that alone was enough to make them teary-eyed and worried that Grandma was going to, well, go to sleep forever. If only they knew what their grandmother had talked about them behind their backs. The comments toward my children have been able to slow down a bit lately, and the situation has allowed the balance to shift in my favor. But it's obvious, are you going to brag about your kids even though one of them is, well, about to be in jail? I don't think so. My children may be innocent, but they know very well right from wrong. And there are some thoughts that every time I recall them make my stomach hurt. Some time ago, my children, my oldest, were offered things behind their school and he didn't accept, as he understands the issue well, but that just makes me feel that many kids were tempted by my nephew in the same way. That makes me think very dark stuff. Since then, I take my kids to school myself and bring them home as well, and that may seem a bit overprotective to my mother-in-law, but I would not mind taking criticism for something I know is good for them. Lloyd tells me that in a matter of a month, it'll all be a thing of the past, and I want to believe it with all my might. Updates number 3. Hey guys, back for another one. The universe taught me something, and that is that everything bad you do, sooner or later you're going to pay for it. And that's the case with my last Thanksgiving dinner, which was filled with lots and lots of drama. First, the next contents regarding the update. My mother-in-law made an almost miraculous recovery, coming out of her weekend stay to almost look like Miss Universe or an extreme sports player in Vitality. She even went so far as to go for early morning walks with other ladies as a form of exercise. So I felt that she was replaced in the hospital by a different, happier woman. However, I knew it was her because she was back again with that flippant comment about my children. And that was her trademark, which even the weakness of her body did not allow her to give up. What I'm most grateful for is that at no time did she ask to see her grandchildren, because she said that perhaps the emotion of the matter would make her relapse. Something that I found curious because being me, I would do the opposite. I would be crazy to have my grandchildren come to visit me. But I guess the desperate views we have of each other are not just limited to raising our children. Anyways, moving on with the story. At the same time, my nephew was in a series of rather delicate trials which came and went, and whenever he won something he seemed to lose twice as much, causing unparalleled stress on his mother, who sometimes wrote to me in despair saying she didn't know when all of this torture would end. Lloyd, in turn, did his best to calm me down as my nights of sleep were compromised by the boy's stress, even though everything was already taking its natural course. He told me to invest all my strength in something worthwhile, and well, that was Thanksgiving dinner, which was just around the corner, and all of this happened in a span of only 9 days, when we began to prepare everything for my mother-in-law to spend that date with us at Lloyd's insistence. That way, we could get my sister-in-law to excuse herself, and nothing awkward would be asked. We didn't just count on one thing. My sister-in-law is an idiot. Now I can say it properly because only a day before the date, she said she was going to our dinner with her other children, and if there was any more food missing, she could pay for it on her end. Lloyd and I didn't know how to make her understand everything. We tried and we tried, but it was telling her something so she could completely ignore it. Anyways, we had her outside our door that day without her oldest son. And when my mother-in-law asked about him, she simply said that he stayed home because he's at the age where he doesn't like family dinners. Blaming her son instead. If I'm to be impressed with anything, it was the fact that her other children didn't reveal anything about the situation to their grandma. But I think it's just because even though they don't understand what's going on with their older brother, so we all sit around the table while my sister-in-law and I served everything. But at the beginning, the beginning of the end, I lent myself to make it all end in the worst possible way. It all started when my mother-in-law was making all these nasty comments. And all normal, right? saying that it was strange that her eldest grandson wasn't here, as he had always been a fan of the date, and that it was normal for children like him to be excited because they'd see the day as something special, instead of making children believe that every day's special. This is a direct attack at me, obviously, as I had long ago said in front of her that every day should feel like a patriotic date to keep spirits high. Now I understand what her view of the matter was. I was going to let that slide, but my sister-in-law, the woman I let come to our house for dinner after all that happened, started to play along with her mother, saying that my children should understand the value of things and not that you just give them away like that, and I was surprised, being that she, who has her son on trial, is now preaching parenting lectures, That was my least humble moment, I swear of it. For with one sentence I shut everyone up, and even Lloyd later told me it was the first time he had ever seen me so serious. I looked at them and I said, sure, they should not have everything in life. They should stay away from the bad stuff like the drugs your son sells, right? And ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to hell. Drugs? Mother-in-law. My sister-in-law panics at that and starts calling me a liar. I told her, okay, then say what had happened to her son, and if he was really in the house, text them to ask. My mother-in-law went into a moment of desperation without saying anything. She took her phone and starts dialing my nephew's contact as fast as she can. My sister-in-law told her not to do that as it was silly. But her mother insisted and got upset that her daughter was trying to distract her, so we sent the kids outside, told them to go play. And like a mother yelling at her children, the women started, "Where is my grandson?" And when she heard what happened, we felt like the sky was going to fall, and she said everything from "I can't believe it" to "I knew those boys were in bad steps." And more stuff like that. She starts to feel bad and starts crying. In fact, all of us women present start to cry, and Lloyd was just comforting his mother. In the end, we didn't even get to dessert. I'll continue to tell you tomorrow morning. My kids are calling me for something. I won't be long. Updates number 4. This is the final update. Hey guys, I know. It's been almost a year since Thanksgiving dinner, and I have some bitter news. My mother-in-law passed away a few weeks back, and it was then that I remembered these writings, so I decided to make a small return to the letters to, comment on the end of the story. My mother-in-law was hospitalized for months as she suffered depression as a result of the dinner. In the end, she was quite remorseful about her poor treatment of me over the years, but she never seemed to apologize at all. She was the kind of person who thinks that saying, "I'm sorry for everything I did," that's enough to get things back to normal, but it isn't. Her outcome was sad, as she managed to make her family forget about her in her last moments. She ended her life still upset with my sister-in-law, who wasn't in a good place either. See, her son received 5 years. 5 long years in jail, and the verdict, as far as I know, was rather merciful because he was a minor. He was given a chance to get out for good behavior, but him being him, I highly doubt that's going to happen. Well, I wish it, but I highly doubt it. That's the last thought that I have of my sister-in-law and her kids, who I haven't seen in a very long time. Not that I miss her too much. Her circle of friends, from what I've heard, was highly reduced after her son's situation, as not many wanted to have anything to do with the mother of a criminal. Something strange and curious, but positive, even if that's hard for me to admit it, is that my popularity and that of Lloyd and our children increased. And the comparison between both branches of the family could not be avoided, and as you may well know, there was only one clear winner. Currently, my sister-in-law's other children are going through somewhat of a murky situation. She has 3 children, right? The first one, you know where he is. The second one is a troublemaker who has his whole classroom subdued of bulliness and is a headache for the teachers. And the youngest daughter, well, let's just say that she was the main one responsible for a kissing revolution in her classroom, where all the second graders ended up kissing each other. Yes, second grade. causing a somewhat promiscuous commotion in the classroom to the point of being almost regional news. It's a matter of effective and not so effective parenting methods. They teased me for years, and at the end of it all, my children were the ones who were able to come out healthy as an example of good influence. And speaking of which, my youngest son made the honor roll at his school, a privilege that 3 other children have achieved this year. And that only a total of 40 have achieved in the history of the school. Not to brag, but hey. Regarding the situation in my city, the case of selling substances it's already diminished quite a bit. It seems that it was just a passing fad, and we thank God for it. Many of those who have been arrested have talked and cooperated with the police to find the source of the problem, which is believed to have to do with the school where my nephew was from. And that's led to many children being removed from the place. From a general level, it feels strange that my own family is involved in this situation because of all the media impact it has on this city. But this situation, as terrible as it was, only made me and my parenting method, which, although not the best, was at least good enough to make my boys come out as good kids and keep them on track. Right now, my biggest concern is scheduling the family vacation. I thought that because of the loss of my mother-in-law, we would put the plans on hold, but Lloyd said no way, let's just do it and go for it. Because if we don't do it now, we won't be able to for quite some time. And if he, who is the one most affected by the situation, says it's a no problem to go, who am I to ruin the vacation? Let's go! Alright, I just don't know what the sister-in-law was thinking was going to happen at that Thanksgiving dinner when she tries to just blurt out some stupid stuff to OP, knowing good and well the entire situation that she was in, with her son literally about to get arrested. Why would she even stir up a commotion? It just didn't make any sense to me. Why she would put herself in that line of fire? I guess she wasn't expecting OP to say anything. Well, we know that's not what happened. I want to know your thoughts about today's story. And if you were in this position, would you have lost it too and just told everybody how it really was? I want to know your thoughts, so drop them down below in the comment section. My name's Mr. Reddito, and I narrate these stories every day, so if you want to be a part of these daily stories, just hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys tomorrow, but just remember one thing, it's cool to be kind. See ya.